And welcome back. Well, in a world of electronic communication, life can move so fast, and relationships can often become impersonal.
Our next guest believes all it takes is a concerted effort to focus and listen. He says it can, what'd you say? Not only make someone feel good, it may even save a life. Joining us now is Ben Merens. He hosted a call-in talk show for 20 years on Wisconsin Public Radio, and now he is here with his new book. It's called People Are Dying to Be Heard, a guide to listening for a lifetime of communication. It's funny we're talking about people dying to be heard, because I do believe people want to be heard. They want to have a voice. And whenever when my parents come into town and hang out with my kids, I have 3, my mom always says, what can I do for you? And she thinks I'm going to want her to cook or do laundry or something like that. And I said, if you could just listen to my kids when they're talking and really pay attention, because it's very hard, because kids talk all the time, or at least mine do. And I always feel like they want to be heard. They want someone to listen. I'm like, can you do that, Mom? That would be great.
Well, first of all, good morning and thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I want to tell you a story about my Grandma Happy. We sit on a couch like this.
Your Grandma Happy?
Her name was Grandma Happy.
Okay.
And she was a school teacher. And we would sit on the couch in silence, right? We'd sit for 5 or 10 minutes and listen to the waves hit the shore. She lived in Wilmette, Illinois, right on the lake.
Yeah.
And after about 10 minutes of silence, she'd ask me, what are you thinking? And she taught me 2 really important lessons. One, it's okay to sit in silence, not on your talk show, but almost anywhere else, right? And the other is, it's really respectful to ask somebody what thoughts they're having, especially if you've shared the silence where the thoughts happen. Nowhere is it more important than to do it with your family.
Yeah.
So in the morning with the kids, as tough as that can be sometimes, you don't get that moment back. Every day, the clock is ticking. And ours just went off to college, so I know now. All those moments, if I didn't make myself available to her, I wouldn't get it back. And if I did, I got it back tenfold, 100-fold.
Well, it's cute. We had a guest yesterday that said breakfast is the new dinner. You know, if you don't have time to gather everyone around the table at night, do it in the morning and talk about, you know, what you plan your day and start off on that positive note. You say there's different kinds of listening. In fact, there's 3 levels of listening. What are the levels?
Well, essentially, I talk about the fact that it starts with listening to yourself. So for me, I listen to my breath come in and out of my mouth and put my hand on my heart before I get out of bed in the morning.
You have to be very still to do that.
Well, yeah, but I'm just waking up and the house is quiet. So I do that to give myself the chance to be still and check in with myself. And throughout the course of the day, I recommend that we do this, that you take some deep breaths, maybe you go to the washroom, throw some water on your face and stretch a little bit, and just check in, because throughout the course of our day, our whole being changes. We get stressed, we get tired, we get hungry, and if we don't listen to that, we stumble. But when you do listen to that to start, the next place that you go is to the kitchen usually, and there's your family. But you've listened to yourself. So now you're listening to the kids or to your spouse, and you're able to do that because you've started by tuning into yourself. That second level of listening is just listening to those you know. Because the people you know, mostly family at first, and then I go to the Y in the morning, work out, so the people at the Y tell me their stories. So it's part workout, part, I wish someone would listen to me, and Ben does. And we can all do that for each other. Because when we hear each other's stories, we validate our lives. The older we get, the less there are relatives who remember all our lives. So your story is known by what you put on your website, but mostly the stories you tell us.
And the third one is listening to strangers,
That's
people that you don't know.
If you listen to a stranger, because the stranger who's telling you their story is dying to be heard, hence the title of the book, why do they tell me their story? Because nobody else is out there to listen to them. And in this day and age where we have our cell phones and our posts and our tweets, there's less conversation going on. So a stranger doesn't seem to have anybody to talk to, will talk to me or talk to you. And for the most part, you won't really know the impact you have on that stranger. But every once in a while, I find a drastic story, a story all the way at the end of the spectrum where a life is actually saved. We have a minute for that?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this is a really powerful story. The power of listening to a stranger. It was told to me by a guy who runs a grocery store in the community, and I stopped in one night. Local?
Yeah.
He said, "You remember Steve?" I said, "No." He goes, yeah, he used to work here." I don't remember Steve. And it was at night, and I wanted to go home, but I realized he wanted to tell me his story. So there I was in the dead of winter, and I go, "Tell me about Steve." He goes, "Well, he's in San Francisco now." Now, I don't know who he is. So the fact that San Francisco means nothing to me, except, he goes, he was in the park with his girlfriend, and they saw a guy looked to be homeless climbing over the railing to jump and end his life over the river. And he went up to the guy and said, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, I don't have anything to live for. I'm going to end my life." And Steve said, "Take my hand. I can show you a better way." The guy takes his hand. He goes, "You can get down to the water without jumping, but why don't you come sit and talk to my girlfriend and me and tell us why you would do this?" And the man spent half an hour on the bench talking to them. Now, I don't know Steve, so I don't know what he said. But when he got up, he thanked them for listening to him, and he walked in the opposite direction. So their willingness to hear a stranger saved his life at that moment in time, which is all they have, right? Pretty powerful stuff. When we listen to a stranger, we may not be saving them from jumping off the bridge, but we may be filling their cup enough to help them move on somewhere.
Even just in that moment.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty important. And sometimes when you listen to the stranger, you get fed, you get the message you're looking for in other places in your life. And here's that stranger telling you something.
What about people that will say, I don't have time to listen to everybody's story,
rush.
my own family, let alone a stranger?
Make some time. And yes, you need to limit the ability to listen, right? We only have so much time for this segment. When I was on the air and I had a caller, they only got so much time. So I tell people, okay, I've got time to listen to you, but only so much time. So I've got a brother I love dearly, but if I let him go 20 minutes, he will. If I only have 5 minutes, I'll say, hey, I've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
And then you know what I do at 4 minutes? I got a 1 minute warning for you. Because what? I said, I told you, I got 5 minutes. I'll call you later. And with kids, when I would tell my daughter, I can't do it now, half an hour. 29 minutes later, she's saying, Dad?
Are you ready?
That's right, because the kids know. So if you tell someone, whether it's a coworker or a child or a spouse, I need some time, but I'll be ready for you at, and you give it time, be ready to answer that call. But realize that if you put some of the other stuff aside, and you don't look at the computer or have the phone at the ready all the time, you have a little more time in your day for conversation than you think. And the people are dying to be heard message is that we can make a huge difference every day in this world if we listen to somebody else, just one other person. And the big difference we make is done a moment at a time. And it takes that moment over the course of many, many years to move. I say our pebbles, we move every day. So at the end of our life, we've moved a mountain, and it's possible.
I love that. My mom and I always joke that we have this cursed blessing of people telling us their entire life story in the matter of 3 floors on an elevator. You know, but so often we just stare at the number or look away in an elevator. Even in those moments, allow someone to share, because they will. They will tell you everything in 3 floors. So, okay, we want to make sure everybody can find out more about your book and get a copy of People Are Dying to Be Heard. You can do that at Ben's website. It's benmerens.com. And then you have an evening of music and storytelling. I know you've got tons of stories to tell. We can tell there's so much time we could have spent here as well at Pop More Corks, which is Saturday the 1st. So that's tomorrow. Or sorry, 2 days from now. Sorry, it feels like Friday. From 6 to 8 p.m. And that's where that's going on, right in Lake Geneva. Thanks so much for being here, Ben.
My pleasure. In the music gig in Lake Geneva, it's not just my stories. People tell me their stories, and then I write songs for them so they can film it and get a personalized song just for coming down to say hello.
And it's his birthday tomorrow, so wish him happy birthday on Saturday,
Ben, on Halloween.
Thank you guys so much.
Great to meet you.
Really
Thank you so much. Absolutely.